Hey, everybody. Welcome to the JungleRoar Skinny Bengals postgame pod from here in Inglewood, California, SoFi Stadium. Stop me if you've heard this before, but the Bengals can't close out their opponent. They fall with 18 seconds to go on a J.K. Dobbins 29-yard run right through the heart of the Bengals defense. They fall 34-27, falling to 4-7 on the season. Just about all hope is gone for the Bengals to make a playoff push now. They'd probably, or they would have to finish out the season winning the remainder of their games, and that would mean going 6 straight wins to finish 10-7. That would match their mark from 2021. But right now, Skinny, I can't imagine the Bengals putting together 6 straight wins. I can't imagine them putting together 2 or 3 straight wins, given how inconsistent they've been all year in trying to finish out these close games.
It's weird. There's not a lot of explanation for it. I mean, some of it is it's just not a very good roster, certainly on the defensive side of the ball. That leads to those issues. But, the defense has played in stretches the last 2 weeks, Mike. Baltimore game, the first 5 series end in punts. The second half of this game, the Chargers go punt, field goal, punt, fumble, punt, punt, punt. They had all of 4 first downs going into their last drive. And if they go 84 yards in 4 plays in 27 seconds to score the game-winning touchdown, how do you explain that? I mean, honestly, how do you explain it?
They're inconsistent, Skinny, and we have to start this podcast, if we're talking defense, talking about the inability of the defense to get off the field in the first half. They allowed 17 first downs. They fell behind 24-6. They allowed Los Angeles to score on each of their first 4 possessions, the first 3 being touchdowns before a field goal late in the first half to make it 24-6. And Cam Taylor-Britt has completely fallen off a cliff. He hit rock bottom here tonight in Los Angeles and Inglewood, getting pulled after allowing, or we think he allowed, by playing man coverage in a zone concept. Lou Anarumo and Zach Taylor pulled him off the field in favor of not DJ Turner, but in favor of Josh Newton. And when you're a third-year player in the National Football League and you get pulled for a rookie who's had only, a handful of snaps this year, it kind of speaks volumes to where your game is at if you're Cam Taylor-Britt.
Yeah, especially in what was I don't think it was a complete must-win because I still think they could go 5-1 and make the playoffs. But neither here nor there. This was a big game, period, end of story. And they rolled the dice and said, you know what, your play is not satisfactory enough, and we're just going to go with the rookie, and the rest of what takes place be damned. And actually, he played pretty well. Josh Newton did. He had some moments that were rough, but he had some really good moments too. This whole speech last week, this whole conversation about Cam Taylor-Britt was, I talked to Mike Hilton one day. I think you guys as another group talked to him the next day and
Yes.
Kind of said the same thing to both of us, which is, hey, guys go through slumps. He's got a chance to get himself right. He's been doing all the things we need him to do. Lou Anarumo talked about, corners can go into slumps and that, just as soon as you're in a slump, you can get out of it with just proper technique and doing things the right way. Cam didn't want to talk this week because I truly think he wanted to focus on making sure things were right. And through all of that, he gets benched because of poor play, because of doing something the wrong way. And that's disturbing because it's not just the short term. I mean, when he played last year in stretches, you thought this guy was a long-term solution at corner. You hate to think that he's not only not a short-term solution, but he's not a long-term solution either.
Well, and Germaine Pratt and TV cameras captured the Bengals linebacker going over to him and having an animated conversation on the sideline. We talked to Germaine Pratt after the game. Cam Taylor-Britt was not available. And Germaine was saying to him, look, we need you to be more consistent. We need you to be better. We need you to be in the right position. When we communicate what the defense is, you've got to know what defense you're in. And obviously that's the situation that happened on that second touchdown. That was the Will Dissly, the tight end, the 29-yard touchdown pass from Justin Herbert. Dissly was pretty much I'm sorry. Let me correct that. That was the Quentin Johnston 26-yard pass. I Sorry about that. That was the second touchdown pass from Justin Herbert, and Johnson just floated in all by himself in behind the Bengals secondary, and he should never have been that wide open, Skinny, as Justin Herbert was scrambling off to his right.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. It also wasn't the play 2 plays before, which was a pass play to Disley, where it looked like that Cam went the wrong way and he was playing a coverage that others weren't playing. So I think you're partially right that it wasn't the touchdown to Disley. It was another pass on that same drive a couple plays earlier. But the bottom line was he got yanked. He got yanked for whatever reason. We're going to talk to Lou Anarumo on Tuesday, and maybe we'll find out what that reason is and if they can figure out a way to salvage him. Because, again, I'm not just talking about for this season, right? You don't need to go into next season going, we got to remake the safety room. We need another corner. We need this. You hope that some of these young guys are solutions for the longer term moving forward. And man, when he's getting benched in a game like this in favor of a rookie, it shows you where they're at with this guy at the moment.
All right, what did you make of Trey Hendrickson's personal foul that he picked up, which I think was debatable, certainly. And he really kind of lost his cool there. He ripped off his helmet. Then later on the same drive, he rips off his helmet after they allow a third down conversion, and he goes over to the sideline. Zach Taylor tries to calm him down, it appeared, and speak some sense. And Trey Hendrickson just smacked his hand out of the way and kept going about his way. He didn't want to be talked to. When I talked to Trey Hendrickson after the game about this, and he said, look, I'm an animated, very intense competitor. I love Zach Taylor to death. That wasn't about disrespecting Zach Taylor. I am a defensive player in the National Football League, and guys are going to react like that. And that was kind of his way of, writing it off as not a big deal, not trying to make, a mountain out of a molehill, I think. But how did you interpret what you saw on the sideline?
I think there's frustration from everybody, and that's what happens when you lose. And it's all nice to say, boy, what a harmonious locker room we have, and these guys are all playing for each other. That works when things are winning. When things don't go right, that's when you really see, what are these guys about? I do think they're about hard work. I do think that they hate losing. I think that's a good sign. Some people would not take Germaine Pratt yelling at a teammate as a good. I think that's a good sign. That's holding a guy accountable, maybe in too public of a fashion or a manner, but I don't mind it. And so some of that stuff doesn't bother me at all. But some of it also shows you it's starting to pile up. We'll get to it a little bit. It's Jamar Chase kind of calling out Zach Taylor. It's Trey Hendrickson, what he did on the sideline. It's Germaine Pratt animatedly talking to Cam Taylor-Britt. It's Joe Burrow slowly walking off the field, dejected in the first half after a drive didn't work. It's all of those things starting to add up, and that's what losing does to you, especially losing in the manner of which they're losing.
Hey, everybody, it's Trags, Mike Petralia, host of the Code Reds and JungleRoar podcast on CLNS Media. Want to take some time out to tell you about Prize Picks, the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks invented the flex play, and that means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quickly as 15 minutes. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Download the app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
Well, okay. You segue to that. Let's get right to that, Skinny. And that is what Jamar Chase and T. Higgins had to say after this game. T. Higgins always wears a smile. Don't you notice that in the locker room? He always has a pleasant disposition. But sometimes, even with a pleasant disposition, there are daggers that he throws in there with a definitive purpose. And what T. Higgins said after this game on Sunday night here in L.A. was that we can't finish. We've been saying it all year. We cannot finish. Finish the effing game. And he said it with a smile on his face, but clearly he's frustrated. Jamar Chase, he had a much more stoic look on his face, a very serious, frustrated, agitated even look on his face. I said, Jamar, are you sick and tired of answering the same old questions? And then I followed that up with, well, you've got to win to stop these questions from being asked. You realize that. And, to your point, what Jamar said about why this team can't finish, he said, I don't know. I'm just a player on the football field. Ask Zach, ask the coaches. I don't call the plays. I mean, that's pretty damning. When you say something like that, he's pretty much putting it at the feet of the coaching staff.
Yeah, and that's where there's so many fingers of blame to go around, and maybe some of it is play calling. When you hear players talk about it, maybe it is. Maybe it's the personnel on defense. Maybe it's it's always a little bit of something when you're just a little bit away, and that's where this is mounted. I mean, you can call it maybe bad luck, right? You lose all these one possession games. They're 1-5 in one possession games. The lone win came against
you are
against
what you are,
Cleveland. But Mike, the other point to that is, I was going to say is, you're also 0-6 against teams above 500. That's not luck in all 6 of those games, right? I mean, that just means you aren't quite good. I think Joe even said it after the game that we're just not quite good enough. We don't have a big margin for error, and they don't. I think that's why they're losing all these close games, is they just aren't good enough.
Your reaction, because it caught my eye, your reaction when the Bengals, I believe, were down 7-3. They're driving into the red zone, in the lower red zone, inside the 10-yard line. And it was it was Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Germaine Pratt on the field. And the ball goes to Germaine Pratt. I don't know. When you need a touchdown, I'm not looking at Germaine Pratt to get his second hand free, which he needed to do and did not. And maybe he was being held, but on replay, I just thought that Germaine couldn't make the play, the physical play, get free, and catch the ball with 2 hands. Whereas when you have Jamar Chase or T. Higgins on the field, the ball has to go to the direction of those 2 players when you need a 6.
Yeah, you want to run a first down go route for Germaine Pratt, or an 8-yard out route to get his confidence going? Absolutely. But not on third and goal from the 2, whatever it was, 3rd and goal down there, or 3rd and 2 down there, trying to convert a first down in the low red zone. He hasn't proven anything. And I think even in this game, there were a lot of times where you're like, okay, that was a hard catch. It's a contested catch, but I watched he make that catch. I watched Jamar make that catch. He had a deep ball that he just looked like he didn't track very well. And so I know he's doing things, the coaching staff. We talked to Dan Pitcher last week, who said, he's doing better things. He's doing things to earn more snaps, and maybe that's the truth. But what I see is a guy who, honestly, to this point, hasn't shown me he's a very good receiver, other than when he gets wide open on a go ball and he can catch it when he can track it, because he can't track it very well either.
Okay, I don't know if you heard all of Joe Burrow, Skinny. I know you were making your way down.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
He was as dejected as I've ever heard him. I know Kelsey Conway asked, is this the most frustrating year of your career? And he said, what do you I'm paraphrasing here, but what do you think? And he said, yes. Then she said, why? And then he said, well, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, was the actual quote. And Burrow and I asked Burrow, it seems like you don't have the answers.
Right.
Do you have any reason why you don't have the answers? And he just shrugged and said, nope, I don't. And to me, that's troubling. When your quarterback, the icon, the centerpiece of your franchise, looks lost, bewildered, frustrated, I don't want to say he's given up hope, but he just looks resigned is the right word. He looks resigned to this happening week after week after week, even though the battle is there. Burrow is an incredible competitor. He showed that certainly coming back from 27-6, making it 27-27. And, I think he's to be commended for that, but the body language of Joe Burrow tonight stuck out to me in that regard post-game.
I mean, Mike, throws for another 350 odd yards, throws for 3 more touchdowns. Yes, did he miss some throws? Sure. I mean, no quarterback's perfect, but you're literally asking this guy in that offense to a degree to play perfect, and that's impossible in this league to do. You're doing enough. I mean, you scored more points against the Chargers, and again, some of that skewed a little bit. This was the best quarterback and best offense that they had faced all year. They hadn't faced a top 10 quarterback and passer rating until today, so some of their numbers are skewed a little bit, but I think it's still a very good defensive unit. You scored more points than anybody scored on them all year. It wasn't enough. You scored 34 on Baltimore. It wasn't enough. You scored 38 on Baltimore. It wasn't enough. You scored 33 on Philadelphia. It wasn't enough. That's a huge ask in this league.
Well, and the Chargers had not allowed 20 points but one time this year, and it was exactly 20 points.
Right.
And so the Bengals come in here, score 3 touchdowns in the third quarter, bang, 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 or 2 in the third quarter, 1 in the fourth quarter to tie it. And you're thinking, wow, they are going to pull off what would be the biggest road comeback in franchise history, and they can't get it done. And I want to go back to the defense for just a second,
sure,
Skinny, and that is the optics of this team not bringing in Xavier Howard. It looks horrible, and they're going to say it was financially driven. The reason for not bringing him in.
What could it have cost you? What could it have cost you that was going to break the bank?
I don't know. We're not going to get the answer to that because the team is obviously not going to speak on that. But the reason Bengal fans are furious is it appears the Bengals are not doing everything to win.
No.
They're not doing everything to support Joe Burrow and trying to win a Super Bowl. That's why the Bengal fans are furious. And I do wonder if ownership and the front office fully appreciate that.
No, I think what's happened, Mike, and this has happened before, where
sure.
You've had a malaise in the late 70s. Remember, you had those really good teams that you and I grew up with, those teams in the mid-70s that were really good and unfortunately had to fight the Steelers. And then came the malaise eventually when those teams kind of fell apart because of age and poor drafts and all the things that come with falling apart. And then they got back to the Super Bowl and you caught that euphoria for 3 or 4 years and everything was great. And you had a nice little run there with Boomer for a while, right? The fans were all in for a decade. And then I think you just kind of sat on your hands and went, we're good because the fans are back. And then that kind of fell apart. And you had the Super Bowl team, obviously, then that fell apart. And for decades, it got to a bad part. Then Marvin comes in, brings some stability, brings some playoffs. The fans are back enough. And that falls apart. Kind of fell apart the first couple of years under Zach because those teams are bad. Then you go to the Super Bowl again, and we're back. And now it's all about the fan experience. And you know what the fan cares about? They don't care about your whiteouts, greenouts, brownouts, blackouts, Susie out, Susie ins, whatever you want to do with it. You know what they care about?
Right.
They care about winning. That's what they care about.
That.
Mike Petralia Trags here, host of the JungleRoar and Code Reds podcasts on CLNS Media. Well, there is nothing quite like the thrill and excitement of taking in a football game live and in person. Some of my favorite memories when I was growing up was when my dad would take me to a Miami of Ohio game at Miami Field or a UC game at Nippert Stadium. Well, now there's a great app that helps you get the best tickets at the best prices. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. They have lots of great features. Curated deals make it easier to find the best prices on great seats. They have something called the Super Deal. They have seat views before you buy and lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection, all great features that make the Game Time app very, very unique. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off.
Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
Skinny, I'll take it a step further. They care about being competitive for Super Bowls. Don't have to win every single year. You don't have to win a Super Bowl every single year. But with Joe Burrow as your quarterback for a window of, let's call it 10 years, you should be in the conversation like the Chiefs, like the Bills with Josh Allen. And they're not. They're not at that level. They don't have a competitive defense. And that's why Bengal fans are quick to jump ship right now because people see what's happening with this defense, and it's regressing very severely.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen had his best wide receiver. Granted, they had their differences, he and Stephon Diggs, but they decided they could move on because they were going to have a roster around on the other side of the ball that was going to be good. Kansas City let Tyreek Hill and kind of let the offense not go to waste, because it's certainly not gone to waste, but they restructured it because at the same time they were restructuring and rebuilding their defense through good drafts, good signings, good retention of keeping a Chris Jones. This team doesn't do that. And so I do think it feels like they've gotten, I don't want to say lucky a couple of times, but it feels like lucky a couple of times in their franchise history. And then you said, we're good. The fans are back. We don't have to do anything else. Yes, you do. If you're a good franchise, you want to continue to do something else. And when you don't, and when it doesn't work, someone who is making those decisions must pay the price. And unfortunately, that guy should be Duke Tobin at the moment, who should pay the price. His drafts have sucked. His signings have sucked. His roster building has sucked. And somebody has to pay the price, and they won't.
All right, we haven't talked about Evan McPherson, and we have to.
Ooh, we sure do.
Missed field goals in the final 4.5 minutes of 48 yards and 51 yards. They were struck well. They just didn't go through the uprights. The snaps looked good. The holds were good, solid. He missed them. And he did not speak to the media after the game. And so we don't know what he's feeling, what happened. If, we think that the snaps and the hold were good, but we haven't heard anything from Evan. And, I give him grace because he wants to he doesn't want to address it because he needs to process it. A couple of the Bengal players, when asked about Evan McPherson, said the same thing, let Evan process it. But I will say this about Jamar. That's why Jamar, quote, again, paraphrasing here to a degree, Skinny, that's why he gets paid the big bucks, is what Jamar said. We pay him that money to make those kicks, and tonight he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, he was good with us a couple of Mondays ago. The last time we talked to Evan, he'd come off of a weekend of missing a couple of kicks, missing a key kick, and I thought he was good. I thought it felt like he kind of talked himself back into, I'm going to be okay. This will work itself out, and I kind of believe that too. But man, I think it's a lot like the golf game, right? When you get the dreaded, what's, and I'm not going to say the word because no one wants to hear that word. When you get them, it's hard to get out. I mean, Justin Tucker's in the same scenario. Justin Tucker's arguably the greatest kicker in NFL history, and right now he's going through it. And it's not like he suddenly forgot to kick. He's just going through it. And, both of Evan's kicks tonight, he tugged just a little bit, and they both kind of sailed a little bit wide left. And he's in it right now. And, I don't know how you get out of it other than you just keep kicking. But to that point, this is a league of kickers who make. And if you don't make, eventually they're going to have to say, I got to go somewhere else with you, man.
Well, I think James Rapine asked a very interesting question afterwards. When you lose confidence in a guy like Cam Taylor-Britt, there's somebody you can go to on the bench. And that's what the Bengals did here tonight in Los Angeles. They obviously went with the rookie and Josh Newton. With Evan McPherson, you can't do that.
Right.
And he asked Zach about that, and he said, we still have full confidence in Evan McPherson. He's got to say that, Skinny, right? I mean, there's nothing else he can say. Just like Zach Taylor has to say, there's no other group of guys that I want to be with more than this group. I still believe in them. Jamar Chase said that, as a matter of fact, after the game as well. We have the group of guys in this locker room that we believe in. Well, you may believe in them, but they're not producing.
That's correct. And, I don't know why you believe in the defense whatsoever. It just consistently has shown that it's just not good enough. And then it takes superhuman efforts on the offense. I think the frustration's starting to boil over for them. And then they get mad that hey, you weren't maybe running enough goal balls for me in the first half. And then in the second half, you changed up. And, Zach, I need more of those things. That's when things go haywire, man. And this bye probably actually comes at a good time to kind of have everybody separate for a bit, take a deep breath, come back, regroup, and give it one last try. But I got to tell you, Mike, if that Pittsburgh game goes haywire, I know they play Cleveland. I know they play I know they play Tennessee. I know they play Dallas. None of that's going to matter because this season's about this close to teetering on the complete edge of disaster.
Second to last drive that the Chargers had the ball after McPherson had missed from 48, I believe it was.
Yep.
Mike Hilton had a chance to essentially end the game. and the pick six. If Mike Hilton catches the ball, which was right in his hands, he's off to the races, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
no doubt about that.
At the very least, he sets up Evan for another field goal opportunity.
Yeah, but I think the way the replay looked to me, Skinny, is that if he catches that ball, see you later.
Yeah, he might have been.
And that's the frustrating thing if you're a Bengal fan. Again, all of these opportunities this year, there are too many to name. From starting with the Kansas City game right up now through tonight here at SoFi Stadium, the Bengals have missed on every single chance they have had to close out a game. Every single one.
Yeah, and you just have to wonder at what point does that even out, right? It just feels like it's one of those where you can't put any. You want to put something tangible on it, right? And unfortunately, you can't put anything tangible on it. That's the disappointing part. Yeah, I think we both lost our light at the moment.
I think so too. Maybe that's a signal.
Yeah. So I'll kind of wrap it up with this part of it. We all want to put something tangible on what's taking place, right? And why things are going haywire and how to maybe fix it. Zach was asked about wholesale changes. He said, we're not at the wholesale change part, but I do think you really are going to have to examine at the end of this season, what are the things that are preventing you from building the roster the right way? What are the things that are preventing you from winning games with guys making plays at the end? Is it honestly, when you look back, just bad, dumb luck in some of these cases? And maybe it is, and maybe there's an evening out process that has to wait till next year. But they do need to look at the entire operation at this point and go, all right, what can we do to be better? It can't just be Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase going forward, because that's what it feels like it's going to be if they sign those two guys. And I don't know how much trust I have in them building a roster around them. And you're going to waste two supreme talents at the peak of their careers if you're not careful. You're damn close to doing it right now.
All right, the Bengals drop one here at SoFi Stadium, head into the bye at 4-7 on the season. Chargers win at 34-27. Chargers are 7-3. The season is slipping away. It's been a season of frustration. Anybody who watched this game here on Sunday night or watched it on television could sense the frustration all over the field. The sentiment was the same after the game, and the tone was that of a defeated, frustrated team right now. And that's where we're at in the 2024 Bengals season. Be sure to follow Skinny online at local12.com. Follow him on the X at local12skinny. Richard, do you have anything you want to promote before we sign off?
Yeah, I'm just writing kind of a column that I just wonder how much the guys have left in the tank after this one. When you got a wide receiver taking some shots at the coach, you got a downtrodden Joe Burrow. I mean, just how much can you really regroup for that final 6 games? Because there is a path. There's still a path. I mean, these are all winnable games, even though Pittsburgh keeps finding. I mean, Pittsburgh is in that one of those years, Mike, where it's finding ways to win. Bengals are finding ways to lose. Maybe there's an evening out process with them that comes along just because of dumb luck and because of the intangible nature of how sports can be. But it's been one of those seasons where it just feels like you're literally one more loss away from everybody pointing fingers at everybody.
All right, we'll see if that happens. Bengals off next week. They return on December 1st to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers at Paycor Stadium. For Richard Skinny, I want to thank you. My name is Mike Petralia. Thanks for downloading this episode of the JungleRoar Skinny Bengals postgame pod. And until next time, which will be 2 weeks from right now, have a great week, and we'll talk to you then.